I'm Stefan Baumann. I would like to invite you on a special journey to discover the splendor, encounter the grandeur, feel the excitement. Come along with me as we experience the thrill of painting outdoors. A 3-day journey that will change your art forever. In one of America's most stunning locations, Mount Shasta. Everything you need to know is on our website, www.stefanbaumann.com. If you read my newsletters, because of my PBS show and my YouTube, everything that I do is more for coaching and teaching. So who's going to read newsletters? Predominantly people that are interested in learning how to paint. And that's because that's my business, is to teach people and be an inspiration for people to paint, right? But collectors aren't interested in painting. So they're more interested in your story. A lot of people who are trying to do newsletters and stuff, they're really busy trying to say, well, I used blue and purple and I was out there, did this brush stroke, and then I dropped my paints, and all of a sudden, and they go into the painting experience, or they'll try to teach a lesson, right? And the thing is, collectors, if you want to appeal to collectors, what they're more interested in is why you painted this. They want to know the story. People love stories. And I have, if you look at my marketing, in fact, if you look at this card here, this is a perfect example. Okay, here's my marketing card. I don't give this to artists because it's futile, right? But this is how I market to collectors. On the very top hand corner here, it says April 22nd, 2015. It's a journal entry. Third day of my week, gathering paintings in Yosemite Valley, sleeping under the stars. The following morning I woke up and there was snow on my sleeping bag. I was aware that the seasons were changing, and this was a moment to capture that. That's interesting for a collector. That's the story. So that when they buy the painting, because collectors want to brag about, if they spend $30,000 on a painting, they want to, it's like it's up on the wall. They don't want to sit there and go, well, he used ultramarine blue on that painting. Can you see the ultramarine blue? He says ultramarine blues are good for shadows. Did you know that? He doesn't want to talk about that. He wants to say, when the artist painted his painting, he had fallen asleep and it was fall, and he woke up and it was winter. And this is the moment, the day, that fall transitioned into winter. And he tried to capture that moment. And he was sleeping in a sleeping bag. And he woke up with snow on his sleeping bag. Can you believe that? I can't even imagine sleeping outside of a Holiday Inn, let alone a Marriott. It's like, wow. They're interested in the story. No matter how rich you are, you're still up for a good story. So you sell them the story behind it. Don't tell them how it was painted. They're not interested. Tell them a story that's fascinating and wonderful so that they can tell their friends about it. And then their friends go, oh my God, that artist paints like that. I want one. They want to buy stories. Notice the students that take coaching from me, they only have a couple of questions. Everyone else has got 5, 10, 15. Anyway, go ahead.
And it's a minor question. How do you decide on how to do your signature and the color you use for that painting?
Personal practice.
Because like this one, it's brown and it blends in with the decor.
Mm-hmm.
That one's orange.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, there are times I used to always paint with red, and part of that is because I love Winberg's paintings. And Winberg, as a little kid, I was admiring his work, and he always signs in red. And I thought, so I started copying him. I thought that's really good, and I figured Norman Rockwell, we know him because he actually will put his name as part of the artwork. And then people would call up and go, all I see is your signature when you put it on. So then I would go, okay, well then I'll dumb it down and I'll just hide it like that. And then after a while I go, you know, I'm spending money marketing. It's like, damn it, it's my name that counts. So then I put it back into red in here. And when people call up and they go, well, all I see is your signature, I say, good, I want you to see my signature.
That's right.
Now, Michelangelo did the Pietà, and he figured since he was such a master carver, that people would know, of course it's a Michelangelo. There's nobody else in Florence that could carve that. Come on, you know? So he put it out there without his name on it. And everybody was like, who did that? Everybody had no idea that Michelangelo carved it. So he went back into the gallery that night and carved his name across the big banner that goes across the Mary in the front there. So it's his name's written. It's like, okay, I'll tell you who carved this. It's like, don't be afraid of your name. You're spending a lot of money trying to get people to know you. Paint it so people can see it. And also, too, red irritates green, because remember the complementary colors? So usually my foregrounds are nature and they're green, and when you put red next to green, it vibrates just enough so that my greens look agitated, but not enough to agitate the viewer, but stimulate the greens. So it works really well as a red. So if you see any more red signatures, you know they've watched my video on signing your painting in red and they're copying me.
There you go. Where do you find collectors?
Everywhere.
What rock do you pull over to find that collector?
Everywhere. You became a collector yesterday when you came up to me and said, I want to buy that painting. Most of your collectors will be found while you're painting plein air. You'll be out there painting and somebody will come up and they'll go, gee, I'd like to have that for my wife for her anniversary. And you sell it to them and you say, so where's your address? Where would you like me to ship it to? And that becomes a collector. Now, you generate collectors, you don't find them. They're not out there. They don't wear billboards saying, hey, I'm a sucker, I'm buying art, right? What you do is you lure them in. You go reach for them. I mean, Abraham found a collector because he went to a farmer and said, hey, could I paint your barn? And we talked about this before he went out there. And I said, the farmer will probably buy your painting. And didn't you get another sale from that?
I went down the street, the same thing.
The same thing, yeah. So your collector could be the person that you're painting their house. Yeah?
Barns are famous.
Yeah. So don't turn off the people. When you're out there, you're a goodwill ambassador, and chances are when you're out there painting, those people are the ones that are going to collect your artwork.
Also, and this irritates me personally because I spent my life in retail and I have been told I'm an excellent salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
I can't sell my paintings. What's the deal there? Is it because it's too personal?
Yeah, I think, and part of it's a fear of rejection. It's easy to sell something to somebody, and if they don't buy it, you're not attached to it. But when you don't sell something of yours, you think, oh, I'm not good enough. Something about me is not right. But I think that's a human nature. So you have to kind of stand up there, and you have to get that most people will buy from you if you just tell them to. They really do. It's amazing. I learned that from your father. Most people, if you just ask them, would you like to buy it? Most people would say, I'd be interested. They want to know how much it is. And if you follow some sales videos, like Tom Hopkins, How to Sell Anything to Anyone, they give you the words. And Abraham and I were doing some sales speech while he was driving to work, and we were doing some Tom Hopkins things back and forth about trying to get people to say yes. And then people go, oh, I'd love to have that if it were a blue painting. And go, if this painting were in blue, would you buy it? And they go, oh, yeah. Go, hold on, I'll call you next week. I'll make one in blue. At that point, they already said that they would buy it. Now it's just a transaction that has to be made. You paint it in blue, you show up and say, here's your painting. But some people won't even like respond to that. They go, oh shoot, it's not in blue, it's in gray. I'm sorry, I can't help you with that. It's like, and a lot of people will actually come up to you and go, oh, if it were just bigger. You try to get out of the sale. And you go, if it were bigger, would you buy it? And they go, why? Of course, because they just said they would. And go, I've got one that's bigger. And you go home and paint it. You know, you got to know how to respond to people. And there's tapes on it. But the thing is, even gallery owners don't even listen to those tapes. Most people who sell artwork have never listened to a sales thing. So when you hear the people going, if you need some help, let me know. I had a guy in a gallery. It was Ingrid Gallery in Los Altos. And it was back 30 years ago when I was painting paintings that now I wish don't show up. And these paintings are showing up because it's a secondary market, because the people who bought them are now dying and their kids come to me and say, my parents bought this painting. And I'm like going, oh shoot, I wish that one would fall away. But anyway, but the thing is, I would drop a painting off at the gallery, and they were an hour away from San Francisco. Tom, who worked there, excellent salesman. When he left, I was like, oh, but he went, anyway. So he'd say, I have this sold by the time you get home. And he did. Literally, the next person who came into the gallery, even if they wanted to use the bathroom, he'd make sure that they left with the painting. And it was hilarious. And he only did it with my work. But he was such a good salesman that people who came in, he'd go, come over here, this artist just delivered this. And he'd make sure that the people left with that painting. And that's what salesmanship is. If you're not selling your paintings, it's because of you.
Yeah.
Not your painting.
But it drives me crazy.
You know, you don't have to do a salesman question the question. You know, if this painting were in blue, would you buy it? That's a closing question. And then what happens is you go, well, I'll go home and paint it for you if you like it in blue. You've lost the sale. You have to learn to say, if this painting were in blue, would you buy it? And they're sitting there, and you have to learn to shut up. Because you've just thrown a closing question. So they have to close it. If they go, no, even if it were in blue, I couldn't afford it. Boom, you're done with that person. But a lot of times they want to save faith, and they go, yeah, I'd buy it if it were in blue, not thinking you had a blue one. And if you didn't have a blue one, now you do, because you go home and paint one.
Putting my paintings out there, like on Facebook, do you respond to everybody? Once you have my base is not that big, or I don't want to, every time I put people will say, did you paint that? Where are you? I don't want to respond to every comment that people make when I put my paintings up. How do you do that on your Facebook?
Well, this is the whole bottom line. Now, everybody who does coaching with me, we get into marketing. And slowly, it's like you can't help it, right, Lisa? It's like, do you have a website?
Yeah.
You know, do you have this? What kind of website? Are you doing your Instagram? I've had you do Instagram.
I mean, it's up, but I haven't posted it.
Yeah, so I have them doing Instagram. Corey also, you know, get a Faso website. So you can't do anything until you have a website.
Is your website on Faso?
No, but I wish it were, but it's not.
So you think that's a good one?
Faso is good. It's easy. It's not complex, and you can own it yourself. The thing is, I put together with Chris a WordPress site, and the problem, it's too good because Chris worked forever learning SEOs, and you can put in nocturne paintings, and my painting shows up as the first one out of the millions that are on, you know, and it's because her SEOs are so tight. I mean, they're so tight that I can't even learn what she did. So she was excellent at a time. But if you asked her now, she goes, I can't remember that stuff. It's just too complicated. But the thing is, she became an SEO expert. She could have made a whole living doing this for artists. But man, in certain categories, I show up first. And when you're doing WordPress, you can do that. So the whole thing about marketing now is social marketing. Galleries are not interested in you unless you are a social marketing genius. And you can go to a gallery with crap. And if you have a collector base of several thousand and a marketing network behind you, they'll take you in because they'll be just in awe of you, because most artists are shitty marketers. So what you want to do is you want to start off with a really good website. And in the process of that, learn how to do some of the SEOs and stuff. And then you have to have Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, because that's right now, 2019, that is the touchstone of marketing right now. If you don't have those up. But the thing is, people who do Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, they're not really the people that are buying art either. But they need to be addressed. You have to have a presence there. And even if you're just putting in really stupid content, like this is me painting at a workshop, and this is me and my teacher, this is me, and you put all that stuff in and you're loading that up in there, you have to have a foundation in there, so you all should be just dumping that stuff. And if you tie in Instagram to Twitter and Facebook, it can be done. Yesterday I put in several things. If you're on Facebook or Twitter, you guys have already been up on my social thing. Yeah. So it's like, this is my day 1, day 2, and I don't have a day 3 on it. But the thing is, that's how you have to be, constantly putting stuff up. Because what happens, especially with Instagram, it's just a waterfall. It's just a waterfall. And people might see you, they might not. And the way that their algorithms run is it doesn't get to everybody instantly. So you constantly have to be posting. And if they miss the post, they miss the post. It doesn't come back on their thing. So you got to be constantly feeding those posts. But most of the people who are on those platforms don't have the money to necessarily buy, although there are people on there that have money. But LinkedIn is where all the collectors are. Those are the people that have the businesses, the money. They're all your corporate people. They like the more sophisticated conversations and stuff that they have in LinkedIn. And so learning how to do LinkedIn, which I still can't wrap my head around, but I do have a couple of my coaching students that are experts at that because they're business people. I'm working with them. But you literally have that platform that you have to worry about. Yes. Yes. It's perfect. Because see, the thing is, your storybook, your thing, it's going to mothers and stuff. Whatever you're doing is a support to your art. And so if you can have your art part of whatever you're doing outside of that and link that together. The problem with the art world right now and Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff is everybody's huddled into one stream trying to be heard. So you're into Instagram and Facebook, and everybody's on Instagram and Facebook. You're just too much. And so you have to have something else to be heard. And if you're doing a children's book, one of my students that I'm coaching, we spent an entire year illustrating her children's book. She's had this book written for a year, but with no illustrations. And so I said, let's illustrate it. So we've spent a year illustrating, and she's been using Mexican puppets for kids. So the whole thing's got this Mexican theme through it. I don't know how PC it is, but she went through and did it, and it's really fabulous. And the thing is, in the process, she got to be a really good painter. And at first I said, your paintings look childish or childlike, And I said, it's perfect. They'll be like your kids can relate to them. But the problem is that she was getting better and better and better with her painting. I said, we got to get this book finished really quick here. It's a good thing that she did all the stories out of order, so it's not like the beginning of the book, the artwork is primitive and then it gets really good. So it kind of holds together all the way around. And so now she's doing the cover and the back cover now, with all of her characters in the back, and they're all doing a big selfie.
Well, look at
a
Laura's
park.
doing weddings now.
Well, she was.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you have to end up doing something else. So what you're doing, anything you could do outside of that and link it into your art, there's a new market. And the thing is, what you need to do is you need to find a way to be out of your market. Being in Instagram and Facebook and stuff is a conversation that you're up against a lot of people. So, I shift over to YouTube. So I do all that stuff, but I got a huge presence on YouTube. And since I'm more of an art teacher, I have a really loyal following that catches me on YouTube, and then they go into Instagram to find out more to me. And then they're the people that go to Italy with me. There are people that go to these workshops. That's kind of my business in there. If I want to go and sell paintings, I would focus more into into LinkedIn, because there's a population. But there again, too, you have to appeal to people's senses. You're not going to look for artists on LinkedIn. In fact, it's a mistake to load up your Facebook with artists. If you really want to know some secrets, let's just say you wanted to become really good at marketing, and you're really sensitive and you really want to focus on marketing, is that you don't try to become a friend in what's that artist again? I always lose his name. What's the artist that you like, the plein air painter? Vicar, yeah. You don't try to be Vicars Friend, because he's never going to buy a painting from you. But what you do is that you read Vicar's stream, and at some point they'll say, oh, we really love the painting we bought from you at the last workshop. That's a collector. So you go to that collector, if your paintings are similar to McVickers, outdoor painting, plein air, and you tap them and you say, would you like to be a friend? And since they already kind of buy paintings and you're similar to McVicker, chances are they'd say yes. They might be interested in you. And now you start honing that. So you can go in to people's Facebooks and read their following and pull conversations that people will say, oh, this is my third McVicker. It's like, it's about time to have a Baumann. But you can't just go, hey, buy one of my paintings. Then you have to schmooze them. Now they're your friends. So your content has to be towards collectors. And if you notice, my content's all about teaching. But if I were doing, and I purposely do that, my blogs, my chats, my newsletter, it's all about teaching. But I also have a newsletter that's called My Side of the Mountain. And it's completely a different blog, and it's just insights about living out in nature. Now, I don't know a businessman in the world that's got a lot of money and they're 50 years old that isn't tired of their city life. And they will read a blog or they'll read newsletters where it's some guy living off the grid or sitting around a campfire on the side of a volcano, having horses and stuff. So a lot of collectors gravitate towards me because I'm living the life they wish they had. Martha Stewart at one point, when I was doing all of this stuff, and my television show is the same way. See, PBS pretty much is a show about travel. PBS as a whole is travel, cooking. They have a lot of elements in it. How many people watch a painting show for very long? They have Bob Ross and stuff, and people who are painters watch that. But most people who stumble on my show are watching because it's about national parks. Who isn't interested in national parks? Who doesn't want to retire and be in a motorhome traveling to the national parks? So I figured there's a market there, right? People like that want to live like that. They asked Martha Stewart, she was in Chicago before she got big, and she was doing a preliminary show to see if she could be in that market. And she was talking about doing compost piles. And she's out in her field doing compost piles, and then, she's sitting there doing compost piles as part of her show. And when she was done, the head of the station came down and said, Martha, we dictate to pretty much everybody who watches our show lives in Chicago. They don't have compost piles in Chicago. And she turned to him and she says, but they wish they could. They'll sit and watch that because they wish they had that. How many people watch woodworking shows and don't even have a saw? Yeah, they watch because you're fascinated. So all of a sudden this guy shows up with his backpack walking through the wilderness, and he sets it up and starts painting. And it's like, oh my God, when I retire, I could go to the national parks and paint. What a great idea. So I get most of my mail from people going, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I retired, but Martha and I have decided we're going to get a motorhome and I'm going to take up painting. I'm living their dream that they want. And so I tap into that. And so a lot of my collectors are people who saw me on TV who aren't painters, but they think it's really romantic. And they start loading up their houses with that work to remind them that when they retire, they're going to do that too.
So I could do a blog about an old woman who travels around and paints.
Exactly. And you could appeal to a lot of old women.
Huh?
You got to watch out where you market it, though. You can't, it's like what clientele. If you could find a vein of old women that had lots of money that were interested in buying art, that would be good. But if you just want to talk to a bunch of old women driving around in VW bugs, they have no place to put a painting.
Yeah.
So you got to really identify your market, who you want to sell to. It's like, and then you have to think like a marketer. It's like, for instance, Donald Trump's son, Donald Jr. When they first were on the radar, they got in trouble because they killed a lion or something like that, and it was all over. So so it showed that they hated animals. So people who hated them really made a big campaign. And so if I had access to him, I would say, what you really should do is in your desk, in your office, you should have a national park painting to show people who come in that you're sensitive to the national parks, and have a painting of a live lion to show that you care about lions. So when people come in, the artwork that you have in your office says a lot about you. And so what you do is you appeal to a corporate giant and say, Exxon, your reputation about Alaska and oil is pretty bad. Maybe you should put a big seal painting behind you to show that you care about seals, because they all died because of you. See? So subliminally. But the thing is, you have to be wide open. One of the marketing things I was going to go after is that the Lone Cypress in Pebble Beach, the golf course there. It's illegal to paint that. It's illegal to paint this rock with a tree on it because Pebble Beach owns it. And if you paint it and put it into Carmel, they'll actually have you remove it out of Carmel. You will notice that there's no Lone Cypress paintings in Carmel because Pebble Beach trolls the galleries, making sure nobody puts one in.
Why?
Because it's their logo. They want royalties if you use it. But the thing is, my thing is like,
How do you own nature?
exactly, how do you own something God made? You can't, right? So what I would do is, if I wanted publicity, is that I would actually take them on. And there would be a lot of people, and the headlines would say, how can a golf course own something that God made? And people would start following that story. And guess what? They're reading about me challenging a golf course, and I'm making a stand for art and beauty and God, and I'm dealing with a corporation. That kind of thing generates the headlines.
So there you
Well, the
go.
ridiculousness
That's
of
your $1 million
their
idea.
claim
Yeah.
is
there you
what's.
go.
Well, they were going to do, I forgot, it wasn't Curry Company, but the ones that came after in Yosemite, they were going to do the same thing with Half Dome, because their logo was Half Dome, and they were going to seek a royalty from anybody who profited by using that photograph or painting of Half Dome. That was actually something that was proposed to the national parks.
Lindbergh got in trouble for painting Coke.
Yeah, well, there again, too, Coca-Cola. National Geographic stands behind their photographers like crazy.
Well, they should.
Yeah.
They should protect them.
So anyway, I don't know how we got to this, but
May I ask a question?
oh, sure, yeah, but you don't care about them.
Well, shouldn't you if you're, because.
No, because perfection leads to paralysis. And so you could wait for the perfect picture, and you could wait weeks until you get around to doing that. And so some people say, don't post anything in progress, don't point. The thing is, it just goes like this. And most people don't even pay attention to the crap. You got to have a lot of crap in there, but they want to associate your name with that crap. Until all of a sudden something comes up that's good, but then they'll start following you, and they're going to see how a lot of crap turned into a beautiful thing. But you don't want to sit there and go, well, I'll wait until I get good enough or all that, because you got to have a whole stream of stuff. And if you want to get into a gallery, you got to get followers. And the only way you get followers is to literally just go after them. If you'd like to try coaching for yourself, whether you're a beginner or an advanced painter, please don't hesitate to give me a call at 415-606-9074. Join us on our website at www.thegrandview.org and get more information about our show. There you can download our free book, Everything You Need to Know About Outdoor Painting.